right, the title of my message is Hurry and Worry, Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 to 34. I'm going to be reading from the New King James Version instead of the NIV, but it'll be up here. This is Jesus speaking on the Sermon on the Mount. Therefore, I say to you, do not worry about your life, about what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Look at the birds of the air. Are you not of more value than they? Verse 27. Which of you, by worrying, can add 1 cubit to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed as one of these. Now if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Therefore, verse 31, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows what you need, and that you need all these things. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own troubles. Verse 25, worry. The literal word in the Greek doesn't translate well to an English word. Some words in the Greek. We're going to do like 5 definitions today. If you're taking notes, here's number 1. Worry doesn't exactly mean the word worry. He means the word worry with this idea of distraction. And it literally means to be pulled asunder. SAT word, asunder, which means to be ripped in two. I know something about that in my shoulder right now. It's a tear. Don't be torn up into pieces. Worry, distracted, divided. But some of us, we think that it's a necessary little sin. I need to worry. God needs my help on this one. If I don't worry on this, it won't happen. Many parts of Scripture are directed at an individual person, the rich, the greedy, the thief. But when Jesus speaks about worry, he says, but I say to you. So if you were a person, he's speaking to you. Worry applies to all of us. Worry is something universal that Jesus needs to teach us about. And he's speaking specifically in this case about the future and about our needs. And when you're trying to get too far into the future, it's like a skier. You're going down the mountain. You're on your skis. And if you go down a steep mountain, you know the one thing you need to do is you need to have your body slightly set back. But if you get, as the expression says, over your skis, because you want to see what's coming down after the next hill, and you lean over, guess what? You will tumble. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. Don't get over your skis. Look, these people, they didn't have any agencies, organizations that were backstops. If it didn't rain, they starved to death. And yet Jesus says, don't worry about what you're eating. They didn't have containerization. They didn't get blueberries from Chile. They didn't get olive oil from Greece. Thank you, Richie, for that. They had to get the things that they had around, and that's all they had. And so here it is. Jesus tells them, verse 25, don't worry about these things. And how does he make his argument? Verse 26, he says, look at the birds of the air. This word is very interesting because this is the second definition. The word look in English is very weak. The word in Greek is to be locked on focused, is what the Greek word means. Lock on focus the birds of the air in a concentrated, undistracted way. Now, if you read exactly what he says look, lock on focus. Think of a fighter jet when their radar or the laser pointer locks on to the target they want to hit, and it just beeps. It doesn't matter if that target moves, they're locked on, right? That's what he's saying. Keep your eye on these birds because they're the birds of the air. They're not the birds in the ground, as we'll get to. So we don't have to stare at the movie The March of the Penguins. They're the birds of the air. It's not a bunch of these turkeys that you see running around. You don't have to study them. You have to study the birds of the air. If you want to know something about birds, ask Anthony, my son. He will tell you everything about birds. I'm telling you, he knows every detail of a bird, what the tail feathers are like, what the beak is, short, long, etc. And so, study the birds. Now, when I think of studying the birds, and we live in Lowell, I think of that, unfortunately, the birds are drowned out in the airwaves of today in Lowell most of the time. And that is because we have this thing called noise that we didn't have so much of back then in Jesus' day. Now, I'm dating myself a little bit, but when I was a kid in the 1970s and 80s, they invented this invention. Some of you may remember it. We've got some West Coast people here. It was called a boom box. A boom box was something the size of a suitcase that for some reasons they never invented wheels for, and you carried on your shoulder. It had about 24 size D batteries in it that could solar power a house. It was incredibly heavy. And all it did was play AM and FM radio because that's all we had. You couldn't have a record player back then. And the speakers were ginormous. And when they carried this around, which weighed a ton, they kind of walked like this, playing the music, and it was always blaring loud. And all the people of my generation that carried the boombox are deaf in one ear. And you can't hear the birds with the boombox. You just can't hear them. They're just drowned out. There is a season of time in Lowell when you can hear the birds. Guaranteed. It's called morning. Morning on the weekends. Early morning, when everyone's hungover, you can hear the birds. After a miserable shift, those who work the nights, all of a sudden it gets quiet around 5:36. When the last of those people raising Cain go to sleep, you can hear the birds. They wake up with the birds because they are birds. They wake up with themselves. When I was In Aruba a few weeks ago, there was a restaurant we went to, and we've gone there each of the years we went, and there's a courtyard in the back of the restaurant, and there's a big tree. I don't know what kind of tree it is. And at the exact same time every day, hundreds of birds come from all over that section of Aruba and plant themselves on that tree. And they start to chat it up like you wouldn't believe. They take over the restaurant. It's lovely. There's no complaining. But I don't know what they're talking about. I got a worm here. This is where I found this. And almost at the exact same time, every single one of them falls asleep. Imagine, parents, if your kids did that. Boom, they're all asleep. And Jesus told us to watch the birds, to look at the birds, to fix on them, to study them. Now, there's the most famous bird watcher is a person by the name of John J. Audubon. John J. Audubon. He's a Christian man who studied the birds and did exactly what Jesus said. Because Jesus told us to. He commanded us to study the birds. It's not optional. It's not an elective. It's mandatory. It's compulsory. It's part of your prerequisites for life. And so he studied the birds, excuse me, and for 10 years, he drew the birds on color plates. Drew them all. And he started to notice human attributes in the birds and attributes in the birds that are in humans. And after 10 years of doing it, when he felt he was almost done, his house burned down and all the color plates burned up. And so you know what he did? He redrew them all. And this time, by all accounts, they were just a whole nother magnitude greater. And you can look them up, Audubon color plates. And he studied these birds, and he understood that there are attributes of the birds that are in people. And so if we study the birds, as Jesus told us to, we'll understand something, as it says in verse 26, of how God takes care of us. It says that the birds neither toil nor spin. And then he talks about how Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed as one of them. And so later on he mentions in, I'm jumping ahead. That's with the lilies. We'll get to Lily. But I got off track here. I'm rusty. I haven't preached in a couple of weeks. He actually says, are you not of more value than they? That's the third definition that I want to give to you. This word, more value or more valuable. Are you not more valuable than them? Everybody thinks money. A person's worth more than a bird. But the Greek doesn't mean that. The Greek means that something that you will take all the way to the end. You'll take it all the way through to the end. What does that mean? It means that which you value is something that you take all the way. If you're on a journey, you take it all the way to the end. This is what he's saying. God takes you all the way to the end, fully, to distinguish what is better. What he's saying here is, I have carried you this far, and I will carry you all the way through. You are more valuable than those birds. I will more fully carry you. I will bring you all the way through to the end. He speaks about the futility of worry, that it's a waste. I'm going to talk about this a few times, but I tell a story from my childhood that I had a grandmother who was named Frances, and for some reason we called her Nana Fanny. And she lived in the South Shore, and we used to stay with her, the kids, sometimes. And we went into a supermarket to get something with shopping. And on the way out, back then, I don't know so much if they have them then, they used to have these mini amusement parks as you walk out of the supermarkets. That would basically have like 3 little things that's a merry-go-round and this horse thing that just has a piston that goes up and down. And back then it was a nickel that you put in there. And I wanted to ride on that thing so bad. And I had never ridden on one before. And she said, sure. You know, now, of course, my mother would be loaded down with 20 bags and 4 kids running everywhere. So here, I get on that thing, and that piston just goes up and down, and it shakes that kid till he gets CTE. That's all. And at the end of it, you're kind of like, as a kid, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't really go anywhere. This thing just shook me. That's worry. That's what worry is. You're on the rocking horse, and after a whole lot of rocking on the treadmill, a whole lot of walking, you're in the same spot. You're just bouncing on that thing. Worry. Corrie ten Boom said, worry doesn't empty tomorrow of sorrow, but today of strength. Those who don't know who Corrie ten Boom is, The Hiding Place, I know my dad read it. He took it off my bookshelf once. She was an old maid woman who God called, and I say this in a way of what the world would view her, not how God views her or how I view her, but how the world viewed her, whose father was a clockmaker in the Netherlands in World War II. And she saved a great deal of people from the Holocaust. And she was caught with her sister, and they were put in a concentration camp. And her sister, she watched die in the concentration camp. And she survived afterwards and lived a long life to talk about forgiveness. But she's somebody that would know something about worry in a concentration camp, I would say. And yet this is what she's saying. There's a futility in it. You don't get any. Let me tell you something. Worry will wear you out more than work. Write that down. Write that down. Worry will wear you out more than hard work. God just gave me that, so take it if it's good. Nonstop fretting. Don't look so far ahead. And what does Jesus say about this? It's this odd thing. Which of you, by worrying, verse 27, can add 1 cubit to his stature? Now, a cubit, it's a funny thing. A cubit is like from your elbow to your fingertip. Now, they measured things based on people's body, just like the English system of measuring a foot. I guess the king had a big foot because a foot was a foot, 12 inches back then. That's where the word a foot came from, simply. And a cubit was from here to here. And so it says, which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to what? Your life, your stature. Stature is height. Well, none of us think by worrying we're going to be 18 inches taller. Oh, that'd be nice, though. Some of us would really like it. Some of us don't need it. I wouldn't mind a half a cubit. But he's not talking about height. He's not talking about height. The NIV actually says 1 hour to your life. And so let me explain what I mean here. Is that you have to understand that in Jesus' day, when people talk about a life span, think about that term, life span. A span is a measured distance. Are you with me? So you were each given a lifespan. And think about life as a journey. And every time you take a step, you have extinguished you have one less step, like fuel that you've burned. You have one less step on your journey of life. 18 inches, a cubit, is one step distance. You follow me? One step is about a cubit, is what you take. And so what Jesus is saying here is, which of you by worrying by worrying can walk one more step in your life, add 1 second to your life, go one step further in your life? Which of you? You have these pedometers. Is that how you say it? I never did. Justice, of course, when he was like 6 years old. What do you want for your birthday or Christmas? I want a laser shooter to measure everything in the house and a pedometer to measure how many steps. Toys? Nah. No toys. Just those things. That's another story for another day, but he wanted to measure. And I know, like on your phone now, doesn't it do that? I never check it, but maybe I should check it right now. Probably getting a few steps in. I'm going to actually get a few in while I'm talking today. You'll have to go back and forth. Which of you, anybody here, by worrying, can go one more second in your life? Your lifespan will be one more step. You can go any bit further in your life, in your journey of life. Worry is paying interest on money you don't owe. It isn't just not only useless, it's not just like wasting your time, it's actually counterproductive. It actually puts you backwards. And now here in verse 28, we have Jesus pivoting, but not completely. He talks about the birds and studying the birds and doing all those color plates like John J. Audubon did. I think I've only drawn one bird in my life. The week before Thanksgiving, the turkey. Took about 10 seconds. That's probably the only bird I've ever drawn. But Jesus goes from that and he pivots to the lilies and how beautiful they are. Not my daughter, though she is, but not that. What he's doing here, if you will, is Jesus has been talking up the birds of the air, and then he wants to talk up the lilies of the field. Have you ever met an inventor in your life? Not many of us probably have. And if we have, we haven't met many. The man across the street from me, Barry, is an inventor. And when I met him, this is Aiden's dad, when I met him, he starts talking about how he's always liked firemen and wants to help them. And so he developed the glasses that uses like infrared like the military does, but it's for specifically the frequency that allows you to see through smoke. And wouldn't that be a smart thing to put on a firefighter? And so he has this thing called smoke eyes that allows you to see through smoke that he has invented and patented in 100 countries. But when he went into his house, and we were going to go over to his lab to show me the invention, there was all these puzzles right as you walk in his house. And they were different. I can't remember exactly how. And I said, what's this? He goes, I invented all these puzzles. Different way to do puzzles. And then it's something else and something else. You see, the thing about an inventor is most inventors don't invent just one thing, right? Once that creative stuff goes, Thomas Edison, let's do the record player. You know what? Let's do the light bulb. Let's throw that in too. And so what I'm getting at, if you will, if you're with me, is Jesus is like, he's bragging about his inventions. Look at these birds that I invented. You're not impressed? Come over to my showroom here. Let me show you these lilies that I happened to create on the 5th day or something. That's all. He's just bragging. Einstein said, make everything as simple as possible, but no simpler. But no simpler. Meaning, Jesus is trying to say, let me break this down for you. Let me break this down for you. Let me make this simple. Okay, we're not going to have you study trigonometry. We're not going to have to require you to understand differential equations. I'm going to show you birds of the air, and lilies of the fields. Now, if something is complicated, there's going to be an opportunity to make it simpler. I can remember when I was a kid, they made like some sort of machine that could do a simple calculator. And the first one used these vacuum tubes or something. It was like the size of this stage for a calculator, for the thing to do like 2 + 2, and it printed it out on paper, something like that. I can't remember the details. I'm kind of off script here. Well, you know what? Somebody looked at that and said, why are we using these vacuum tubes? Let's use this, a transistor. And then all of a sudden it got smaller. And then someone else said, well, why don't we put them this way on the thing? And then it got to this, right? If it's complicated, then it's probably not engineered right. So Jesus takes these things that he made and he says, take a look at them. Because you see, not everybody gets the same thing out of them. What do I mean? You have beautiful lilies of the field. Along comes a bee, a simple insect. And what does it do? It goes right down and sucks the pollen, the sweetest nectar right out of the flower, right? It sees the loveliest part, the sweetest part of the flower. You get a housefly, that thing, that obnoxious thing that was just sitting on some cow manure, it's just going to go over there and put it on that thing. They don't smell, sense any of that. Okay, what I'm getting at is people look at lilies of the field all the day. Jesus says, look at them, consider them, study them. Now that gets me to what the word consider is. I think it's fourth definition. Consider does not mean a passing glance. I considered it for a second. That's how we mean it in English. Yeah, I considered that and then I did this. That's not the Greek word. The interesting thing is that this consider is only used once in the Bible. And this consider is something that has, again, like the look, a real depth to it. A real period of reflection. So he's telling you to take a time and sit down and look at the lilies of the field. To really stop and look at them. It's like if you go through a walk through the woods and you're with your kids. Are you just like, don't touch the poison ivy, don't step in the deer poop, don't do this, watch out for the garbage here? Or is it, kids, look at this beautiful moss on the rocks. Of course, I'm going to bring that up. Look at the trees. Look at the stream here. Look, what are you doing when you're on this walk? If you have a dog, what they're taking in is completely different than what we are with all their smells and hearing, things. They're taking in a whole other experience. I have this idea to create an attraction where you go there and you go into a room and you experience the room like it's like a nature room, like a dog would, where all the senses are heightened, the colors are flatter, the smells and the hearing is more perception. Wouldn't that be cool? Never mind. This is going to fail. Okay, back to this. That's not on my notes either. I got to stay to my notes or it will be 2 o'clock. All right. Jesus brags. He says, come over to my showroom. And he says, look at these lilies. Look at these birds. Now, what he's doing here is the thing about these things that he created is that they are real and living, and they have a permanence of their beauty. He's not saying, hey, let's get this plot of land. Let's put some cinder blocks on it. Let's smudge some stucco on it. And let's slap some paint on it. And let's sell it as a condo for $500,000 and throw a couple pieces of granite in the kitchen. Once you peel off the paint and the stucco, it's just a bunch of cinder blocks. That's like called Florida, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. So, okay, I am completely off. Where am I? There are some key points coming up. All right, Jesus says, and why do you worry about clothing? Now, you have to understand something here. Clothing is a symbol of all our needs. It's our covering. It's our shelter. When Jesus speaks about clothing, he's speaking about where we are, where we live. He's speaking about provision. Why are you worrying about your provision? Why are you worrying about where you live? Why are you worrying about what you are wearing? Why are you worrying about these things? He asks you this. He asks the question, why are you worrying about these things? And then he asked you to think about and understand that, have you thought about and considered how they grow? How do the lilies grow? How do they grow? Do they get up in the morning and do they say, oh, I have to grow today. I have to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I have to do this. Or do they grow effortlessly, silently? How do they grow? They grow towards the sun, key point, and they rely on something outside of them for everything without worry. I have never seen plants worry. I've never seen them worry. And then when it speaks about that tomorrow they're thrown in the oven, I took that as like, hey, that's how we get bread. The wheat grows, we cut it, and we throw it in the oven, and we make bread. But the idea is, again, Jesus then throws in at the end of verse 30, O ye of little faith. And this is where it starts to get, to me, very serious. Jesus makes worry about faith. Jesus makes worry a faith issue. If you are worried, you lack faith. You do wrong to God. This is heavy because you distrust him. If you are worried, you lack faith. And you do wrong to God because you distrust him. If you are worried, you do wrong to God because you distrust him. That's what Jesus is saying. That all of us have worried, and as believers, we are distrusting our Father, though He's given us no reason to do that. These people had an excuse. I only have 2 pairs of clothing, or 1. And if it rips, I got something to worry about if it's in the wrong place. I only have food for today, and I don't know where it's going to come tomorrow. They couldn't just go down to Market Basket. They couldn't go to the London Tailor. They couldn't just get it fixed in a snap. And yet Jesus absolutely does not call this a little sin or something that isn't a big deal. We haven't defined fully what anxious is or worry. When we talked about the distracted and we talked about tearing something asunder, there's another little bit to it. And that's just what it is. That is to take a part of the whole and hold on to it. When we worry, there's a whole bunch of things, and mainly God in play, and we focus on one thing, and we hold on to that. We take a piece of that fabric of all God's tapestry and plan, and we hold on to this. And we hold on to this. And we think about this. And somebody told us something, and we saw this video on TikTok about this. And this is going to happen to me. And this is going to happen tomorrow. And I don't have this. And I don't know what's going to happen here. And we hold that one little thing right here. Right here. And don't try to take my sweet little thing away from me. Because sometimes I like to worry about it. And complain to everyone about it. Because didn't you see that on TikTok or whatever? And that thing gets in your head, and it's like when you create a loop on your phone, the GIF or whatever it is. Just you start watching the thing and you realize it's a loop. You just watch it, and that's what's going on in your head. That's worry. You're just playing a loop over and over and over. Anxious is to take one part of the whole and to hold on to it. It's this fretting, nervous worrying, chattering. You focused on one thing and it's not God. But you say to me, how do I balance care and concern? Okay, worry's a sin. How do I balance care? You're not asking me to be careless, are you? No, I'm not. Because when Jesus said, look at the birds, he didn't say, look at those lazy birds, dodo birds. He said, look at the birds of the air. And I don't see ever birds of the air just sitting around doing nothing. I don't see them doing nothing. I see them doing all sorts of things. I think there was a game, Angry Birds. Is that still around? I don't know. I never play those video games. So the absence of worry is not proof of faith. Hear me again. The absence of worry is not proof of faith. Otherwise, everybody who's liquored up every day and doesn't worry about it, that don't mean they got faith. Everybody smoking joints every day, don't care about my kids, don't mean they got faith. Cast your cares on the Lord, for he cares for you. Stay with me now. Cast your cares, that's the same word as he cares for you. Well, what is it? Cares is worry and fretting and sin, or cares is concern and caring about it? Same word. It's context. It depends who's doing it. If it's us, it's worry, anxiety. It's awful. If it's God, it's care, it's concern. When we give it to him, it's care, it's concern. That's the context. When we're doing it, I got this, God. No, you don't. Oh, no, I do. I got this. You got this little fabric, this little piece of this. You're holding on to one little thing. Cast your cares on the Lord. He cares for you. The cares word is the same word in the Bible, whether it means full-on anxiety or care and concern. It's context. When it's God, he has care and he has concern. That's what it says. Jesus later says, which of you, when the father, though you're an evil father, though I'm an evil father, my son asked for bread, would give him a rock, a stone. Another one. This is actually, I'm going to put this as the big thing. If I haven't given you 10 already, this is the big thing of the day to remember. I've said this before, long time ago. Tie it well and let it go. This is how you balance care and concern. Tie it well and let it go. We got some people from the OR here. They understand. So if something is bleeding really bad, I have to put a stitch in it. The stitch is fairly small. The knot needs to be put down very tight. And after I do that, I need to cut the stitch and take the clamp off and let it go. Right? Because if something's bleeding and I tie it up, and it's a pretty long thread, it's like 36 inches, so half of it's 18. It's 1.5 feet long after I've tied the whole thing. And after I tie the whole thing and everything's great, I got the string. Picture me holding that thread and just walking away from the patient. Hey, doctor, you didn't cut it. Let it go. You just ripped the thing. They're bleeding all over again. Oh, I didn't want to give up on that stitch. That stitch, I need that stitch. That stitch is going to save this patient. I need to keep that stitch. Tie it well. Show your concern. Lay your request before God. And let it go. Disney, let it go. Tie it well and let it go. I don't know if you remember this, Dad. I think we have a home video of this. That I used to study the birds of the air when I was a real small kid. And I used to stand on top of the picnic tables. And what did I used to do? Flap my arms like crazy. And somehow this got caught on tape. And there's some tape of it. I think my older sister Leah was there. But we got in the idea, it is true that it's just a matter of how fast you flap your arms. If you could flap them fast enough, you would fly. You might break them off too, but you would fly. And so I was on that picnic table. I was 20, actually. Yeah. True story. He's thinking about when I came home from med school and I was absolutely exhausted. Residency. And it was like May. And there was still a ton of snow on the ground, or end of April. Ton of snow. There was a late storm. And the picnic table didn't have any snow on it. And I took my shirt off and I was just in my shorts. And I laid out and fell asleep with snow everywhere, sunbathing. Verse 33. Let's do verse 32. I was going to come back to it, but. Why do you worry about what we will eat, what we will drink, or what we will wear? Verse 32. For after all these things the Gentiles seek. Gentiles, what does that mean? A non-Jew. It means a non-believer. Just because everyone else is freaking about XYZ, why are you? Church, just because. I tore a muscle in my shoulder. I know what it means to have things asunder. It's been like 40 days of not sleeping well, maybe 50. And I have to get this thing reattached. And it's going to be in about 10 days. And I would say I covet your prayers, but at moments like these, as a surgeon, am fully aware that things don't always go as you want them to. And if they doesn't, in this case, this will change a lot of things in my life. And so, as I'm up, flopping around, not able to sleep, I could certainly spend a lot of time on my own mortality and the own possibility that this is game over, and I had somebody come in and want to tell me about their shoulder surgery that was a disaster that went bad. And you know what I said? No, thank you. Politely, no thanks. I don't need to hear this story. Not interested. Thank you. No, thank you. When somebody wants to tell you something that is not helpful to your spiritual development, you have the right to say, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want to watch that. I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to think about that. No, thank you. That's what the Gentiles chase after. The problem is that the people who are complaining, it's like bad breath. It's apparent to everyone but the person with it. If someone offers you a mint, take it. What I'm saying is that the person may not even realize that they're spreading this, but fear, anxiety, and worry spread like fire. And it jumps from house to house. And it's amazing, but that one negative person spreading things, it's like one smoky chimney in a house. It smokes the whole house up. This is serious. Verse 33. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added on to you. I believe this is my last definition. The word add is a Greek word that literally means to accumulate by laying down in front of you. So let's think about this for a second. Seek first, so this is the priority. This is the key verse. This is what's on all the bumper stickers, right? Seek first the kingdom of God and all this righteousness, and all this will be added on to you. What he's saying is, tie it well, let it go. The child sees that butterfly. He loves that butterfly. He grabs that butterfly. He crushes that butterfly to atoms. The butterfly sticks to his hand. The goo is there. He cries and screams. That's what we do when things are torn asunder. When we just see a piece, we lose the piece. When we just see a piece of the pie, P-I-E-C-E, sorry, this doesn't translate well, we lose a piece, the peace of God, P-E-A-C-E. We lose the peace of God when we just hold on to that piece. But there's another thing. When you're holding things like this, nothing can be added onto you. Where am I going to put this? Let it go. And it will be added to you. Added means, what does it mean? To accumulate by laying down in front of you. God, you gave me this. Is this going to be enough? It doesn't matter. I'm going to lay it down right here. You gave me this. I'm going to lay this down right here. We crush that butterfly to atoms, and then we complain to God why that butterfly wasn't indestructible. Are you with me? I had a daughter. I still have her. Rachel. When she was young and she walked with me, she was clumsy. She still is. And she would trip on like a root. And when she fell down, she would get up and she would slap my leg. Don't trip me. I would never trip you, you clumsy ox. You tripped on that root right there. Why would you think that I would trip you? Am I allowed to say this one more time? This is the most important part. Charles Spurgeon, preacher in England, this is what he had to say about this verse. I'll read it slow. I'll repeat it. You can write it down. Seek your God first before everything else. You may seek the love of those about you. You may do that. But first seek the love of God. Seek your God first before everything else. You may seek the love of those about you, but first seek the love of God. Seek a wife, and you would do well for it. Seek a house. Build a family, and it would be a blessing, and you would do well again. But let your rule be this: first an altar, and then a tent. First an altar has to do with put God first, and then a tent. The tent is another way for raiment or clothing or provision or all the other things and all the other people in your life. And I've told this before. But when I was with my wife and we were a new young couple and we were blessed with our first house, and then after a couple of years of trying, we were blessed with our first child, Rachel. And Rachel was born. And we took her home from the hospital. And you have the baby carriage I'm rusty. The thing you carry them in, help me. The car seat, the bassinet, all that. And of course, she's like this big. And we were just coming home, and my wife had 4 hours in there and drive her out. And we took her, and we put her on a table in the house, which we called the family altar. And we prayed over her life, her future, a gift. And along came, a year later, Cassia, who my wife had some trouble, lost half her blood when she was born. And she was weak, and we took her home. Before we did anything else, we brought her to the altar. We put her on it. We prayed over her. And Rachel's a baby now herself. And this is another gift. And 2+ years later go by. And Justice, most of you know the origin story for him. He was born My wife was on a respirator. She was in the hospital for more than a week. She lived, as you know. She's here today. And she was weak and anemic. And we had a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, or a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, or whatever. And we got home with all the stuff. And I don't think I went home that week. And we got home and we put Justice with Rachel and Cassia all together on the altar. And if my wife would have fit, I would have put her up there too. And we prayed, thank you. And that's that table right there. That's where that table came from. That is what it is. And we don't worship objects made by man. My point is, let this be your rule. Are you a new family or an old family? First an altar, then a tent. Don't hold on to things, or they'll hold on to you. Is the alcoholic holding the bottle of whiskey, or is the bottle of whiskey holding the alcoholic? I could go on for a million other things. The kids are here. Let me make 2 or 3 more points. Let's get the worship team up. At the end, Jesus gets pragmatic, practical. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about its own thing. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. What he's saying is, guys, most of this stuff isn't going to happen. Guys, I can't give you grace for tomorrow. I can only give it to you for today. I used to do a lot of time in the emergency room. And occasionally you would see somebody that had a fish hook in their finger or their hand. And imagine the fish hook in the palm of your hand. And the person, when they do that, will try to do what? They'll try to pull it out the way it went in, backwards. You know the problem with that is? There's a shape to the hook where there's a point, and then it comes back, and then it is a barb that is intentionally made to not allow you to, like the fish, to spit, if you will, the hook out. If you made a hook just like a pin, and it went in the fish's mouth, and nothing held it, it would just slip out as it swam away. But when it swims away, the barb locks it into the fish more. And it locks into the person's hand more. And sometimes, after you numb things up, there's only one way to get that hook out. You know what it is? To push it through forward. The direction it went in, to keep going, curve it, and pull it out that way. Don't try to rip it back. The only direction God will help you is moving forward. He will not help you. He will not let you back up the truck. The noise, the beep, beep, you cannot do that with God. He only helps you. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. It doesn't say that there's a light on the back of my head, unless it's reflecting off of this. Let me just say that worry must be a big deal because Jesus made it a big deal. And we are commanded, just like we're commanded if we believe in him to be baptized or take the Lord's Supper, we're commanded to look at the birds. Have you ever looked at the birds? Have you ever looked at the beautiful flowers on 93 on the way up to Manchester? All the wildflowers between the highway. Study them, consider them, reflect on them. They'll teach you something about God and something about yourself. This is a message for all of us. Whether you tore a muscle in your shoulder or whether you have a situation in some other area of your life, every single person could give a testimony of something that's happening in their life that they are worried about. And if there's anybody here that doesn't worry because they fully yielded to God, absolutely praise God and encourage other people to do the same. But for all the rest of us, the other 99.9, we'll have the elders up here, and we want to pray for you. Don't just take this message and go, oh, that was interesting, bye. We haven't been here for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Take the time. Next week, yeah, we're going to have, church, and then we're going to eat and have the lunch thing. Let's have some time, and the communion and all that. This is a time to pray about this. This is a serious thing that people are ruining and losing their faith over worry in their life. All those knots that are in your stomach, let them be untied by God and the Holy Spirit. Put your trust in Jesus. He will not let you down. Let him lay things down at your feet. It's a lot better than grasping at straws. Tie it well and let it go.